Hello! I start here with another Hearts Iron 4 Got to Delmaroon US single player Let's Play. Now, you saw that. That was mission to build a military factory up in Montana. I've already decided I'm going to do it. They'll let the mission expire, which automatically select the first option to say yes. I can trying to buy as much time as possible, though, because I probably don't want to have any risk of failing it. I actually tried to record this video before, got a crash, lost the progress, which is good because I made a major screw up. So I was going to probably want to go back to save anyways, and the game crashed. So there was no chance of staying with the version that I messed up. I did point out there, Japan, which is going down a line, does join the Axis with the Nazis. Through a 9-line path, which is already on. The UK appears to be going that. I don't remember if it was as clear here or I think it becomes a little more clear they're going non-aligned by the time I got in the video before the game crashed before. So this means they're going King's Party. They could just do non-interference, which is non-aggression pact actually with Germany, or they could join the Axis. I could potentially fight the UK, Germany, Japan, Sweden, which is going communist in their default communist path. Yeah, was less obvious here, but they're going communist, and their default communist path allies the Nazis, so that there are events that can allow a player to ally with the Comintern or the allies instead. Might even default to the biggest democratic or communist factions if those don't exist. Where you replace the leader of your country and you get one who's pro-Allied or pro-Stalin. I don't know how that would interact with the right opposition, which is the path the Soviets are going. France is going some left-wing path, but there could be, unlike, say, my other US-Mexico multiplayer game, this is the same player, where I could end up facing fascist Spain, France, and Italy. Here, Italy is actually going anti-fascist. You can see with how much communist support and stuff they have. So they're either taking their democratic or the communist route based on where they are with their ideology supports. So at least that won't be part of the Axis. Italy won't. But Germany, Sweden, Japan, and the UK. This is going to be a brutal game. But yeah, I'm gonna try and bravely stand against the rising tide of Nazi-style evil. And it really is evil. Brutal psychopaths, you know, the Holocaust, or as known in Jewish culture, the Shona, I think they call it. And of course, try and stop the United States from reaching the evil future version it did reach. The version we are living in today, where the U.S. has committed like 3 different genocides, and ambulance rides can cost you over $1,000. I worked as an EMT for a while, and I asked how much, and I think we charged a little over $1,000. And some states, a few years back, some states average as much as $2,500 for an ambulance ride for the uninsured, and not that much lower if you are insured. This is the crazy system we live in. Of course, the genocides can be blamed partly on Henry Kissinger, who's a great example of someone from a victimized group, that is a Jewish man, becoming a victimizer, being behind 2 major U.S. wars, Korea and Vietnam, the U.S. genocides in Bangladesh, Indonesia, and even started a role in starting the East Congolese genocide. It's not like the culture has ignored this. There's this new news to point this out. I remember watching before it was no longer on Hulu. There was Weeds, the show Weeds. In it, there's a family, they're Jewish, and there's the son of one of the main characters, and he's talking to his grandfather, and his grandpa says something about this is make sure it never happens again. Genocide will never happen again. And the grandson points out, but it has happened again. There's genocides in this, and the East Congo. And then the guy, the grandfather who represents the evil of like a Kissinger symbol is like, oh, what do I care about those people? I just meant it will never happen to Jews again. And it's like, no, genocide is genocide. It doesn't matter who's the victim. It's never okay. Um, and the grandson, to his credit, who's supposed to be Jewish in this whole story, I don't know if the actor is, but he sits there and looks at his grandfather like he grew a third head because a second head, because it's a vile perspective. And even then, pointing out that, you know, stuff like, I think he pointed out what was going on Gaza too in that show, in that episode. Um, being Jewish and being in support of Israel are not synonymous. In fact, I was in college. I never met a single Jewish student who was in favor of what was going on in Gaza. They were all against it to different degrees, but they were all condemned it because, you know, Israel has no monopoly in staying for Jewish people. And I was thinking about this partly because I think they've changed this Israel-Palestine thing in the latest DLC, which is from before the major update that went with it. Palestine starts off as mandatory Palestine as a British puppet already released at the beginning of the game now. I don't know if the Israel tag has been eliminated to prevent players from carrying out genocidal fantasies of conquering Palestine and turning into Israel, which was always an uncomfortable thing that if the UK decolonized, for instance, and a player conquered that region of the world, it was in their interest to replace Palestine with Israel because they would have a generic focus tree and a new set of build slots they could add. It was always kind of ridiculous that the game that's supposed to not have war crimes was encouraging players to commit ethnic cleansing. I mean, the Nakba happened right after Israel form, where 750,000 people were driven from their homes, many just murdered in their villages, by mostly Jewish people who, not Holocaust survivors actually, but people who came from the UK and the US and were never closer to a Nazi than watching them on the news. Some may have served in the US Army, but many of the people who actually saw the Nazi death camps and were survivors went on to condemn what was going on in Gaza and West Bank, Palestine. Some of the earliest people that condemned the Nakba were Jewish people who had actually survived the Nazi death camps. And then they went to Israel, saw what was happening to Palestinians, and they said it was the same thing. And that those people who are carrying out this should feel ashamed of themselves that they didn't learn their lesson. So there have always been people who stood against that vile evil of all race, creeds, and religions. Because it's just a matter of fascism. It's not a matter of, I mean, Israelis are Jewish fascists, and then there are, Jewish people who are in support of democracy and even communism. I mean, many of the early leaders of the Soviet Union were communists, which led the Nazis to inventing this bullshit Bolshevik nonsense conspiracy theory. But that was the little piece of truth that they used to back up their crazy conspiracy theories was that some of the early leaders of the Soviet Union were Jewish because they just had been oppressed by the czars, and of course they were not going to buy into monarchist sentiment, so some of them gravitated towards Bolshevism. Nothing wrong with that. I've argued many times that being communist and Soviet did not make a person inherently evil. I will stand by that principle. The Soviets may have screwed up socialism in many ways. They were trying to make the world better. Stalin was something of a tragedy that, his leadership happened to the Soviet Union. In this alternate history, he'll be replaced by Bukharin or one of the other right opposition leaders. Might even not have a second civil war. The right opposition can replace Stalin by assassinating him. 1 in 4 chance if they take a certain focus. I think it goes up to 1 in 2 of avoiding a civil war. I am concerned, though, that the Soviets are going to get their asses kicked at the British and the Swedish, who, let me explain why I'm worried about the Swedes. Besides their natural resources and the paradox, people give them a really overpowered focus tree because they're paradox Sweden. This focus, universal basic income, It adds what is it? Oh no, sorry, it's actually earlier. It's socialist reforms and then UBI when they combine it with that. Oh, that wasn't particularly high. Well, anyways, half of the consumer goods factories factor. So you could be like under totalization of 100% factor and you pay 30% of your factories, or an extra 100%, you pay 30% of your factories in consumer goods, but you would get, because I think it's 100% base plus another 100, you would get a doubling of your production efficiency cap, which would definitely be worth the consumer factories. Which is to say, Sweden, they also have decisions that can raise consumer goods factory factor. Hurts their civ snowball, but if they're at war, they get ridiculous military production. So their resources and industry, Germany's political focuses, the British Navy and the Japanese Navy, I'm going to have a hard time if that happens. Okay, too much talking. So I'm waiting for that thing to expire. One of the things I messed up before, and I'll need to remember not to mess up here. Is that when I got the vent for the right-wing protests, when I finished this, the Silver Legion, they're fascists. I meant to crack down on them, and I didn't. I lost 10% stability instead. Don't get trigger the Civil War, which I need to happen early, because eventually I need to finish it up so I can be ready to deal with the Nazis. If I'm in a Civil War, it's going to make that harder, obviously. Alright. Wait, tactical bomber. Didn't I sell off all the tactics? In Hawaii, there's still tactical bombers. Really? Yeah, the U.S. is such a big B6As. Yeah, these are getting sold off. And these redeployed to Maryland Air Force Base, to Baltimore Air Force Base, I guess. Right. There's a bunch of good bots. Not worth losing some in training accidents. They're too valuable. The smaller planes, like these fighters, on the other hand, less expensive per plane. I think they still get the same air XP from exercises, and I need to get to 50 as soon as I can for the passive air XP I'll gain then, without spending power in an Air Force Chief. That's also the most of all of these. Sorry, this gives more than this. Gets me the most air doctrines in the long run, since I don't have a lot of air doctrine cost reductions as the US. And I have a lot of other things I need to do with my political power and focus time. I may not be running much of my air branch. December 22nd there. I also messed up my research slot stuff. Let's see. Using size 6 brigades here in Panama. What was I going to turn them into? Probably port brigades eventually. Or they don't really need the defense. Maybe light brigades. Engineers are for defense, but against naval landings, they don't need that. They just need attack, so probably light brigades, a couple of those to defend. Could even do coastal. Would have wanted small exercise if I was to coastal. Probably these. Port brigades have. Yep. This. Probably light brigades to defend Panama. It's hard. Naval landings are a hard time making headway. As long as I have enough soft attack that they any one landing can't attack for too long, it'll be fine. I did upscale some stuff. Camera. Once these reach trained, I might want to switch them to just pure exercise stuff. Like this, but maybe smaller. Maybe not. The thing is while engineers reduce XP gain from experience exercises, I'll have to, when I convert them back to have engineers again, I'll have to retrain them back up. I don't know. So this guy's in St. Louis, probably act as, nah, probably scale them up later once they have a little more experience. These guys are down in Panama. I think these originally trained as 3 infantry, 1 engineer before I even had completed this overwhelming firepower. I just haven't yet placed some stuff that doesn't have engineers. Mechanical computing. These training brigades. Small train, they'll scale up to full divisions. I'm going to be using divisions, not National Guard infantry divisions here because of combat width limits. If combat width is not a limiting factor and supply is not a limiting factor and you have enough manpower, an undersupplied division with just more infantry battalions, even if they don't have rifles, it won't lose many faster because they'll still have the same breakthrough and hit points will scale directly with the extra battalions. So it'll have a little higher organization though. Such a group. So having extra men who don't have rifles will add to org. but of course increase supply consumption and increase, obviously, manpower required. But here, and we mean the width limits of the terrain. Next, guys without rifles, just credit people actually do have weapons. Most places, National Guard are actually the right thing for dealing with the Confederates. Some areas I might have some of these river assault or medium river assault divisions for crossing rivers, and large assault for really tough terrain for all the breakthrough they have, because they're big. If I don't have unlimited manpower, even though I have lots, and there's diminishing returns on more extra men. It's often National Guard are the right force to deal with the rebels. Which is kind of, it makes sense from a role-play perspective. This is Arsenal of Democracy, one of my favorite songs, so shut up. It's very much leaning into You're the Good Guys, which is US, you are. FDR tried to do what was right. He actually, even much to FDR's credit, condemned, although wasn't maybe condemned enough, the Bengal famine, how the British helped cause it. He probably would have never been in favor of things like the US, you know, committing the Bangladeshi genocide, or it wasn't US directly, that was done by Pakistan, but Pakistan was a US puppet at the time. So the US provided diplomatic cover, much like the Gaza genocide in more recent times. Similar with the Indonesian genocide, same thing. US gave the guns, provided the diplomatic cover, and it was a puppet who did both. But what I was trying to say is, like, FDR never would have approved of stuff like that. US politics took a darker turn, starting with Truman and nuking Japan. That was the thing that I think kind of broke the US moral high ground and doing the right thing. After that, it became a slippery slope of more and more trying to justify nasty things for one pragmatic reason or another, until before long the US had become the villains in the world stage. It didn't start off that way. It's a live long enough, if you don't die a hero, you become the villain of the story kind of thing. That's exactly what happened to the US. Now, yes, there were contradictions and flaws with the US even before then, like the genocide of the Native Americans, unfortunately. But there was some attempt to reconcile that past and apologize for it before Truman and Eisenhower. That was before those two. The U.S. was seriously, you know, I think, considering stuff like reparations for that. Actually trying to make amends, similar to how the Swedes made amends for the Sapimi genocides of past centuries, which is represented in their focus tree, by the way, where they reconcile with the Sapimi. Those are the native peoples in northern Sweden and Finland and Norway. This tag, the Sapimi. And they are reconciled with on the Swedish focus tree, and the Finnish ones, as they should be. Horrible things were done to them. Unfortunately, genocide is depressingly common in world history. The good nations actually apologize for it and recognize they did wrong. Instead of trying to make endless excuses, claim they had to do something. No, they didn't. Alright. Where are those fighters? Here we go. Get training. Oh, the weather's quite up in the eastern seaboard. It does rain more down in the south, in Central America, I think, than here. So I'm up to Maryland. He's going to save up for 37 techs. I need to make sure not to let that expire, which is what I made the mistake of doing before when I got a crash. I think the crash is due to a driver update to my graphics card, and then OBS having issues with it for some reason. It seems to be working now, but it only recorded the first 6 minutes of the stream before, even when I was kept going. I noticed this till after the game crashed. It froze up. And, okay, so they're Line of the Rift guy means they're taking Unified Nationalist Front, which means, I believe means that, at least they don't control Toledo, so they get saved the Alcazar. The Alcazar is supposed to be a fort in Toledo, so they need at least one division that pops up in the Madrid area for it. Doesn't look... Oh, no, Murcia is controlled. Well, that's... When I did Spain last, I let the Nationalists start and control Murcia, because... Wait, in Catalonia? Why would they give up Catalonia? Maybe because when the commune rises up, Catalonia will stop. I don't know. This is a weird map. We'll see. And yet their public controls Galicia. That's weird. We'll see how this works out, but hopefully the Nationalists don't win. I don't need it to be hard enough in Europe. I decided to when I rearranged to do New York first of these Northeast states, even though it has less steel than Pennsylvania. Because it's got more population, and I've seen references to local conditions in House Senate events and election events. I'm not sure if that actually Michigan has fewer people, but it's got more build slots, so I definitely... But if they're all the same, and I'm not going to run out of steel either way, I might as well do the more populous state first, in case there's any benefit of having maxed infrastructure or add civ. In terms of the House, more populous states should have more House seats. So, House of Representatives I'm referring to. New England and Illinois. Alright, well, I'm briefly alive. And this Michigan, New York, Pennsylvania, New England, Illinois, New Jersey. Why Pennsylvania before New York, though? Or no, I did New York before Pennsylvania. New York, Pennsylvania, New England. New England, importantly, is not just like Massachusetts, but Maine, Vermont, New Hampshire, Connecticut, Rhode Island. So collectively, they have more population in Illinois at this time period. Fun. There'll be other stuff to do with that later, but I won't bore you guys with it. The micro of the construction queue. I believe this is Shatter the Empires, which is actually the name of US Focus, comes below, and Monarchism. It's too bad that Monarchism only targets the UK. Japan can't be made to target. I mean, it doesn't seem to target Austro-Hungary if they come back with their new focus trees. Or probably Iran or a lot of the other new monarchist trees. Poland, maybe. Might target, I think, pre-Gotterdammerung, the Kaiserreich thing, but I don't think it targets them now. Triggers need to be updated for the new monarchist trees, in short. Of course, the only actual monarchies that I'm going to see here are UK, Japan, Austro-Hungary, and maybe Italy. I think they can be constitutional monarchy. No, not on the public path, so. Austro-Hungary is the one that I would like to be able to target. I don't think it lets me target the Austro-Hungarian Empire, which it should allow. Shelly wants my fighters. Yeah, you can have them. I have this automatically accept, right? Yeah, it was just that pause at the right moment. It's actually a rather annoying song most of the time. I don't know why, actually. Into it will get my nerves for a while. Oh, here we go. 22, 20%. These guys. Turn to exercise division. 10 infantry battalions. They'll eventually reach regular. Take a long time, but rather they were getting heat acclimatization than cold, but oh well. These guys should need precious little in the way of actual. When moving down with these guys, the ultimate goal is to get this piece of Texas that's mountainous without having too much of a fight. Should probably put some other guys here or here. It'd be better to grab the supply hub if I can. It's very cold in the mountains. Since it's rarely cold in Texas, I'm gonna be pushing south and trying to take Texas back quick. I don't want heat acclimatization rather than cold. Hmm. Because I don't anticipate much combat in Oklahoma. That's why I put the mill there. Yeah. Cool. How many Springfield rifles that make a day? 8. Yeah, I guess that is. It's not that many. It's because they didn't start off at max efficiency like the M1s did. Because it was something about the mills that you start with inside the beginning of the game. They start max efficiency if they're producing current equipment, not obsolete. So, of course, I knew it was going to need continuous supply of basic equipment throughout the game. So, yeah. All right. Event Silver Legion protests. Led and organized by the Silver Legion of America, a number of centrist and right-wing organizations today marched through the Capitol in one of the largest demonstrations Washington has seen so far. Other gatherings have been reported all across the country. The march ended in front of the Capitol, where the crowd demanded the communists and government in Congress communists and Congress assembled were delivered to them to stand trial before People's Grand Jury, or quote, People's Grand Jury. They wanted to lynch them for treason against the United States, considering having an ideology they don't like to be treason, which is ridiculous. Privately, some members of the administration share some of the protesters' more legitimate concerns about the rule of law and adherence to constitutional checks and balances. Others, however, suggest a hard line against them. With more demonstrations planned for the coming weeks, we must choose quickly. I'll choose we won't battle the mob, but then I'll lose 20% of stability. So I may want to delay it a tiny bit. Gives me more time to prepare for my Civil War. I won't ever be doing that. It's going to be 20 days after this, the Fair Labor Standards, and then start in the War Department. And partway through that, I should get the Civil War. Or no, it's, well, yeah, one. It's not quite enough time to do 3 focuses. I'm not sure. But yeah, you have to take the avoid antagonizing them. If you don't want the non-aligned states America to form, after this, you avoid antagonizing, and that means you won't actually trigger the Civil War until you do full desegregation. That allows you to guarantee the American dream. if you don't want the non-aligned states to form. But it's actually a good thing. They start with free trade, so I get 80% of their steel and such instead of the 20% I currently get being under free trade myself. Well, I can trade for up to 80% of their steel. And they have their own generic tree, so more build slots. I don't know, plus less territory I might need to defend against bombing or whatnot. The cost is the Confederacy gets decisions where they can buy fighters from them and such. Contract out production. So it's not without cost, but it's actually not bad. Anyhow. I'll not bow to the mob, to the right-wing violence, but it's going to be a teeny tiny bit till this will take advantage of this buffer. 13 days, whatever. December 28th or 27th, I should crack down on these. Literally Silver Legion, so literally fascist. I mean, Silver Legion, so literally fascist protesters. They also have centrists marching with them, but can't allow fascists to cite violence. And they do that eventually if you try and desegregate the South. That is, end racial segregation. That's the hot button issue for them, that if you also do the Union Representation Act, they will not. You'll guarantee a civil war then, no matter what you do. If you have a Union Representation Act, even if you calm tensions, the next time you have an election, you'll still get right-wing violence and path to civil war, like in 38 midterms instead. The way to avoid it is never to run Union Representation Act, and you can desegregate the South if you don't do Union Representation Act and take the 10% stability hit instead of losing political power. And I think you have to fire Earl Bowder. They're very demanding. If they want to repeat history and do another civil war, they'll get crushed just like the historical Confederacy did. Fascist pricks. Silver Legion pricks. Silver Legion was a tiny far-right organization in the United States around this time period. They never had much support at all. They had like a handful of people in Louisiana, Mississippi, who supported them, which some of the most heavily segregated states in the U.S. at the time. That should tell you something about what they really were upset about. Hints that there might be desegregation someday. An end to the racial inequality that is white people they were benefiting from. Right around Christmas, Louisiana will get a factory. I'm trying to, lift people up out of poverty and develop my economy. I really wish there were things where if you build enough factories in the Deep South, it would maybe help end the systemic poverty there, maybe give you events. Because there's a long history of underdevelopment and poverty in the Deep South. Very long history of it. All right. Watching stuff like a hawk here because make sure yeah, these fighters should get on exercises too. Hotkey is K for pound exercises. Let's test that. I should learn hotkeys more. Yep, that works. Wait to crack down the protesters till after Christmas. And they're apparently still marching around the Capitol and inciting violence. Couldn't go home and spend Christmas with their families. They're going to end up in jail cells. All right. reinforced stocks. They'll delay these traits till I actually am about to infantry equipment 2, because they actually hurt production efficiency gain. Well, actually this doesn't, but this. Not full production efficiency on this factory line, and I will be adding new ones. If I'm not actually applying that trait, I gain no benefit, only a cost from the MIO trait. Working towards advanced fitting works. Norfolk is still working on the Wichita class. Let's use some chromium. And they still had more production than Newport does. That'd be the last ship Norfolk is assigned to build. Although all my destroyer designs, all B1 class, they'd built. The A2 and the B1. And eventually there'll be a B2. Very good class B2, which first number indicates changes to actual components. Second, or the letter, the way I'm doing this, and the second, the number indicates just changes to MIO traits. So the B2 will swap Norfolk for Newport News once Newport News has reached size 6, and I've given them mechanical genius. Because at that point, the destroyers will have the same reliability and they'll have more speed under Newport News, although less range. And they'll have higher fuel consumption too. It breaks this equipment up somewhat evenly. I'll add a couple more. Try and reduce the chance of overshooting and let it catch up. There, I'll double it actually. See if that works the way I hope. Yeah, it's starting to put some rifles in this instead of the top of the queue. I like this song. There's probably some new cool songs in the new DLC that are cool too. I have not bought it yet. I should buy it. Alright. We must not bow to the mob. I'll just let that short before midnight, I guess. December 28th. I imagine this is like midnight arrests. Order going out for arrest of the people who are getting increasingly violent in the capital. And they do. I mean, if you antagonize them further or just enough time passes, they'll eventually do a January 6th. Or they try to storm the Capitol building and kill people. You'll see. They should get the event for that very shortly. Fascist pricks. Getting very violent. I don't know what the exact turnaround time is till I get that event, but it should get the follow-up event soon. Fair labor stands at. Wait a second, why am I only at 313 in the House? Oh yeah, cracking down on the protesters. It was this little House support, I think. You only need 218, so I probably should be able to run fair labor standards without more lobbying. War Department doesn't cost support. Selective training, though, I may need to log in for. Or the Old Age Pension Act if I want to do that. But, there's a couple reasons for the Selective Training Act, and one of which is faster command power income. Another is more people in the Army, but the biggest is it raises my base war support. That's why I get the command power. And there'll be events that can raise it later, so I need to lock that in, because it only works when my base war support's 0%, or less than 10, rather. It raises it up to 10. Anti-common turn pack. Wonder if the right opposition will do the Molotov ribbon route. That's the tech trade, but I wonder, they haven't done the anti-Soviet pack yet, just anti-common turn. Probably doing the historical path, but just because they want to do Molotov or Ribbentrop doesn't mean that the Soviets will agree to it. If Bukharin might not. If they go their policy of collective security, they'll probably say no. If they do individual security, they'll probably say yes. Wish they'd do individual security more like my multiplayer game. Germany went Spartacus League communist. They should be doing individual security because it cooperates with Germany. And they're both communists, but they shouldn't be doing it with the Nazis necessarily. They historically did, but there should be a chance they don't in that scenario. That's what I'm saying. That's where the collective security makes sense, since it was collective security against the Nazis. And why would you want collective security against their communist power? It doesn't make sense with what it's supposed to represent. It's the idea, policy of collective security, which was historically actually the first path that the Soviet Union tried, because it wasn't either or. The game treats it as mutually exclusive, but what it should actually be, if it was historically accurate, the devs weren't trying to force a choice, is policy of individual security should come first, and collective security should, and it should be ways to bypass it, and policy of collective security should come first. I said that in reverse, and individual security second. It should be that you can't reach policy of individual security without either bypassing collective security or running it first. Because historically, Leonov was the first foreign minister, and he tried to sign a pact with the UK and France, Czechoslovakia, and even Poland against the Nazis, and got shut down by Poland. The French agreed to actually the defensive pact at first, but then there was a change in government, and the far right, especially in the right wing in general, objected to that pact and torpedoed it with the new French government that came into power. And this is what provoked the famous quote by Molotov about the trouble with free elections is you never know which way who's gonna win, or something like that. It's one of the loading screens is he was arguing that you can't rely on like the French to honor their pacts because they'll have a change in government in elections, and then they won't. That he was reflecting on that having happened and arguing that democracies were unreliable partners because he was a fan of a policy of individual security. The Czechs seriously considered the offer, but the British pressured them into rejecting it. They worked to submarine it, and the British were pretended to be open to the idea, but were secretly working to sabotage it, memos and such. So, and the Poles, yeah, I think I said they just pretty soundly rejected. They didn't even want to allow Soviet troops to march through Poland to reach Czechoslovakia if Czechoslovakia had agreed to the pact. Apparently, they would rather Nazi troops march in, or what ended up happening historically is the Soviets said, oh, well, you won't let us help defend Czechoslovakia, and we'll just split your country with the Nazis. Molotov-Ribbentrop and the secret corollary. And that wouldn't have happened probably if Poland had agreed to provide military access so Soviet troops could just march to the southern area. Which I get this is an area that was disputed with the Soviet Union and Romania historically, but and the Czechs even a little. This whole region, but Nazis were a much greater threat. Poles should have been aware of it if they'd allowed that military access, and the Czechs had agreed, which they might not have even if the British hadn't tried to sabotage the pact, and the French hadn't went back on their word. France, Czechoslovakia, and the Soviets would have all worked together to stop the Nazis from taking the Sudetenland. That's maybe even Austria, but most likely it would have been a battle over the Sudetenland. The British probably still would have remained neutral, as they historically actually pressured the Czechs to give up the Sudetenland without a fight to avoid a world war, which happened anyways, of course. That was Neville Chamberlain, I think, in his government that pressured that. That wouldn't have happened, obviously, with the defense pact. Of course, I don't remember. I think Hungary was already part of the Axis by the Sudetenland. Yeah, or was it they brought in after? But they might have ended up invading from the south. So it would have been a world war with Germany, Hungary, maybe even Romania and Bulgaria. Probably not Romania, because it wasn't till Transylvania was given to Hungary, North Transylvania, that Romania felt scared enough to join the Axis. So it might have been actually neutral Romania, but or even one that sided with the Czechs and Soviets against the Bulgarians and Hungarians. Anyways, would have been a very different history, and it could have happened. It's hard to get to happen in the game. Collective Security Pact only makes a pact with France and the UK normally, and it doesn't work in the UK if they do change a course like they did here, so it's just France. For the Czechs to sign it, they have to take I think their communist path. I don't even see any reference to it. There's trust in the West, but there's no reference to signing a defense agreement with the Soviets, which there should be. I think Poland might have something in their communist path, but yeah, it's not even an option in the game, and it should be for the Czechs to sign that defense agreement and stick with it. Soviets can't guarantee them because they're a different ideology unless they go communist before then. So the only way to get that defense agreement is by a focus. And it should be available because historically it was considered and almost happened. It's a shame it didn't. A lot of people would be alive. Nazis hadn't started eating up the world. All right. Construction 2. This is 167 days. I want to see what happens when I save up a day or two more. Still haven't gotten the follow-up event. Maybe the crackdown worked well enough that it'll be a little bit till I get a far-right protest. We'll see. All right. Should pre-deploy those guys. Yep. Yuppity yuppers. Sorry. It's a cute saying somebody used to know. College used to say that. All right. This training battalion should be greatly sized up to... Alright. It's going to be enough time to train them up to a full exercise division. These guys have 3 times equipment. Let's take 90. Nope, there would definitely not be enough time. Not with the amount of equipment they have. This would be... Uh, 0.8. Alright. Yeah, they're not going to reach regular if they're anything bigger than this, which is 4 battalions. They definitely won't be able to. Which means this probably will be converted into something like this, an engineer brigade. Which, when fully equipped, control defense, dug in flat ground, they can at least delay any troops to try and push west here while I attack here, and then fall back to these mountains. Or I might have other battalions already dug in. Should have National Guard divisions here, though. Remember, these guys will have a little more org. Oh, and more guns. But I'll probably have a lot of divisions. These guys only have 24 rifles. Jeez, that's nothing. A pitiful 4.5 defense. Probably need to just get them more rifles in the future. Anyways, what's this? Was 167, went down by 1 day. There's a 1.17 speed bonus. Sometimes you can get weird rounding stuff with that, so I'm waiting to see if I can save 1 day if I wait up to a week here. Alright, these guys should be ready to pre-deploy tomorrow. Same thing. 0.18 a day, so every 5 days is 0.9. Every 50 days it's 9. Take 500 is for these guys to comfortably be trained, even reach trained. Yeah, I'll definitely have to get more rifles with time, even to reach regular. These guys only have like 500 rifles. These I could get up so there's more defenses. Lots of small divisions here. So these guys, because they're deployed already, they just have lots of trained men who don't have guns for a little extra org. Which realistically could be part of the division is fighting. Then they rotate out tired soldiers, and the tired soldiers give their rifles to guys who are rested. Kind of a shift approach, like battleships. force rotation. Maybe that's what's going on. Who knows? Just went down 165, I think. Doesn't looks like it's just going one a day. We'll keep an eye on it. Should be only 164 in the fourth. Excuse me. You get, I think, stacking penalties. You have like much more than 5 divisions. So you can't go too much in the way of spamming smaller ones. Of course, surrounding could work against me. Should be on 63 in the fifth. Yeah, I think this is enough. Alright, concentrate in History 2. Yep. So I can have longer runs of building Civ instead of needing to build infrastructure to get the max infrastructure benefits. I'll need artillery soon, so I can build a self-propelled design. And then consider swapping into relief of command. Decide what to do after separate fire mains there. Still no far-right violence protests. I know that it happens. Maybe it's triggered when communist support is high enough. Who knows? There's different things that can aggravate the far right. One thing I could do, in theory, is merge some of these guys together. That would return or size them up. Turn into a larger template and then merge them together. You know what? Bloody A. Maybe I'll definitely have to get more rifles out. So why am I using such tiny templates? In fact, let's show how that works. 6% experience, 6, right? Both have 1 out of 4. Let's actually turn them all the way to this thing, which has 10. And then merge them to consolidate. 4% fighting strength. It's because it's a larger template. And they were at, I think, what am I saying? They were at 20% experience before. And they're still 20%. 15, 15. Let's try the same with these guys. Still 15. Yep. Stick the 31st Infantry here on the mounds. I don't like the cold acclimatization. I guess I can wait a tiny bit. We're an hour and 10 minutes here, so it's just about time to cut this stream. Excuse me. I'm being called to meal. My stuff, AIs. Percent they have 22. Yeah, it's no experience is lost. It does dilute the cold acclimatization, but I actually don't want that. I want them to be heat climatized come summer. Let's see. Maybe it didn't. Did it dilute that? Maybe not. So 3 divisions. I guess next up I'll put some of the guys in the mounds. Who will be a smaller division just to hold, I guess. Where reinforce is necessary. Oh, bloody what? This is dumb. I want aggressive positioning on the border. Larger stuff up here. Grab the supply hub. Little fuss. 2 divisions can attack, 1 that can go through here, and then provide flanking if need be. That's combat with, so I can potentially throw more men at the battle if I really want. More guns. Outnumber the enemy by more, outgun them by more. So I've got men here to cut around. Maybe encircle these divisions by... Yep. Seeing the mounds is just harder on the supply lines, and then they tend to be colder. I don't want cold acclimatization. I want heat. And when they're cold acclimatized, they have to lose that before they can gain heat, so... This next up is men in Kansas, then. Near Wichita. So I can strat redeploy here. Alright. Oh, far right protests. Not that I necessarily want those, but it is necessary to get the path of the Civil War, and I need to not be in the Civil War and fighting the Nazis, so it's an unfortunate necessity to get those protests soon. delay it a little, but not infinitely, to say the least. Whatever. Keeping my stability longer is not a bad thing. All right. Well, dear viewers, hope you enjoyed this video. Maybe learned little bits of history or interesting perspectives. I don't know what to say. Take care of each other. Be kind to yourselves, and may you always find a guiding star to lead you home. Until next time, next video, tune in, I'll be doing more soon. This is Northstar. Adieu, and farewell.